Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good morning again. My name is Baljinder Gill. I am the Community Training and Outreach Coordinator for Legal Aid BC. My job is to arrange workshops and conferences throughout the province of BC. Along with me is Sarah Chow, Community Engagement Coordinator, and Alessia Mordini. They are also assisting with these sessions. They are the ones actually who technologically help me to do these sessions. Without their help, I am not able to do these trainings. Before I introduce the two wonderful speakers today, there are few housekeeping announcements. Right after this session, you will get an email to do the survey for evaluations. Please fill out the survey, as this survey is associated with the prize. And we really need your feedback. We have this year, due to the pandemic, we are only able to do the online training. Your feedback can really help us to mold our training the way you want to. How we will do the prize is we will take a draw at the end, and whichever name is pulled out of the draw, we will send you the prize via email or via mail. So please fill out the survey at the end of this presentation, which will be sent to you through email. At this moment, it's my privilege to introduce both our wonderful speakers, Deneen Garrett and Adam. Deneen is a Provincial Supervisor of Legal Aid intake applications. Deneen is with Legal Aid for about close to 35 years, have an intense experience, and you can ask as many questions as you want to from her today, and she will be speaking on working with legal intake and applications and appeals. Adam is with Legal Aid from a year now. He's full of knowledge about the legal resources, websites, and all the websites which are linked to Legal Aid and are available outside of Legal Aid as well. Please join me to welcome Deneen and Adam.
Hey, everybody. So I guess I will start. I just wanted to let you know, my name is Deneen. I'm one of 3 provincial supervisors out of the Vancouver office, and it's only been close to 30 years. Belgian, not 35. Don't age me too much. Yes, just coming up to 30 years soon. So there's actually, I said 3 provincial supervisors. There's actually 2 of us now. Our most senior supervisor retired a couple of months ago, so we're still getting used to that. Right now, there's only Kirk and I, and it doesn't look like they'll be filling Wendy's position, the person that left, at least at this point in time. So there's just the 2 of us. Basically, what we do is we supervise, train, and support our local agents, assistants around the province. We review files for all of our intake workers, including the Vancouver staff. They have their own direct supervisors, so we don't supervise them specifically that way, but we do review their files if there's if they need assistance with just questions about whether or not something's approved, if they need a file approved that doesn't fall within our regular guidelines for coverage or financial eligibility, we take a look at those. Also, if a client needs a change of counsel and they've had more than one, we're the ones that make the decision on that. And we also are the people that review files when clients are asking for an appeal of their legal aid denial. So if they've been denied legal aid and they want to have a review of that decision, the provincial supervisors make that, we look them over and make that call. So I am just going to pull up my PowerPoint.
Actually, Deneen, before you do that, perhaps we can show that little video, the 30-second little clip, as a way to set the stage for the session.
I forgot about that.
So everybody hang tight. I'm just going to pull that up.
The law is complicated, and the reality is, not everyone can afford a lawyer. Without legal help, it can be difficult to get the justice you deserve. That's where Legal Aid BC can help. We provide services to people struggling with family, child protection, criminal and refugee legal challenges, and a whole lot more. So if you're facing a challenging legal problem and you don't know where to turn, contact Legal Aid BC today.
Okay, so let me just pull up my PowerPoint here. Okay, so I had mentioned basically, what I do, what our staff does. And so, yeah, just give me one sec. Okay, so Sarah, did you have some questions you wanted to ask as we went, or?
Yeah. And this slide is perfect because I want to ask whether or not you can just explain the type of services that Legal Aid BC offers.
Okay. So basically we have 3 levels of service that we offer. We offer legal information, legal advice, and legal representation for our clients. Legal information is available to anyone. They don't have to qualify financially. It is provided by our legal information outreach workers, or LAOWs as we call them. We have websites, publications, which Adam will go over in more detail. We also have community partners that assist our clients in applying and getting access to resources. And we have self-help centers as well. We also have legal advice. We offer legal advice services, and that is given through our family, immigration, and criminal duty counsel lawyers. We also have an enhanced duty counsel service in Victoria, which allows some more hours and additional services through that department. We have our family law line through our call center, and we have our parents legal centers. We'll get into that a little bit more as we go on. And this service is open to people who qualify financially. The financial threshold is higher than what it is for legal representation. But there is a little bit of a threshold for some of it. Criminal duty counsel, there is no financial threshold at all, but for the other duty counsel, for family especially, there is a threshold. And then we also provide legal representation. So that is for financially eligible clients who have issues that are related to family, child protection, immigration, appeal cases where they want to appeal a court decision, or criminal problems. And we contract with private bar lawyers to provide the representation services for our clients. So basically, we want to, form a collaboration with other organizations to deliver innovative services so that clients have timely and lasting solutions to their legal issues. That is our goal.
And I guess a good way to think of all the different services is to think of it in those 3 categories of legal information, legal advice, and legal representation, and how each of those have different eligibility requirements. Some of them have eligibility requirements to access it. Some of them, it's like legal information is available to everybody.
Yes. And the legal information isn't just related to the areas of law that we cover, like our family, child protection, criminal, and immigration. It's has a multitude of different categories and areas of law and different things that we look at. We look at, there's residential tenants, there's, WCB issues, welfare issues. There's a lot of different things that we cover. It's not just related to our representation services.
Deneen, can you explain how to apply for legal aid?
Sarah. I'm sorry, Sarah, to interrupt. Your mic is making that scratchy noise. Can you put it up a little bit? Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry. It happens. Alessia tries to remind me of that from time to time.
No worries.
Sorry, everybody. Deneen, can you explain next just how to apply for legal aid and the type of legal issues that we help with?
Sure. Before I get into that completely, though, I'll just kind of go over some of the resources that we do have help with, and then, with applying for legal aid and just contacting us in general. So we do have our community partners. I believe we still have 26 community partners in 33 communities. Sarah knows better than I always try to check that, but I didn't get a chance this time to make sure that's still current. But the community partners get free legal, give our clients free legal information. They can help clients connect with legal aid. They can phone us on a special line that we have that connects with our call center. They can help them find the nearest legal aid office if they need to. They can help them get legal help online and connect with people in their area. And we also have, as I mentioned, about our legal advice services, we have our family law line, which is through our call center. Clients can call and speak to a lawyer to get advice on family law and child protection law. We also have, as I mentioned, duty counsel for clients who are dealing with immigration law. If they're in detention, if they're not in detention, we don't have a duty counsel service for that. And we also have lawyers that deal with family and child protection law as duty counsel, as well as criminal. And then we also have our parents' legal centers, which are offices that deal mainly with child protection issues. We have 10 offices around the province. They deal with other geographical locations other than just their community. I don't know if this list, I think there's been a couple changes in the last few days, which I'm not sure if this is 100% up to date, but I will double check that before we send this out to everybody. But basically, if a client has a child protection issue and they live in one of these communities, then the Parents Legal Centers or the PLCs will provide them with a lawyer through their office to assist in trying to resolve their issue before going to trial. If it has to go to trial because they can't come to an agreement with the ministry, then we will actually then appoint a private lawyer to go beyond the initial parts of the case, because the PLCs don't deal with the trial issues. Okay, so applying for legal aid. We have 31 legal aid offices to apply from normally for legal aid, except obviously because of the pandemic and COVID, we are not doing basically any in-person applications at this point. That may be changing as the province opens up over the next little while, but we are doing basically right now, everything's over the phone. So we have our call center in Vancouver, and all of the local agent offices are taking calls as well directly to their offices and taking the applications over the phone. We do have, as I said, the 31 offices around the province. Currently, Cranbrook and Nelson, we don't have a local agent in that area because the person that had the contract a while ago decided not to renew. We haven't been able to find anybody to fill those positions yet. So hopefully soon we'll be able to do that. For the call center, if a client wants to call and apply, the phone numbers are here. We have a Greater Vancouver number and a toll-free number, so anybody can call that number from around the province. We also have specific lines for certain areas of law. So if a client has an immigration case, they can call either the Vancouver number or the toll-free number and speak with someone on the call center. Immigration cases are only dealt with in Vancouver. So this is the way they have to contact us right now, as at this point they can't do in-person applications. We also have a designated line, as I mentioned, for our community partners. So if a community partner is helping a client apply for legal aid, they can go onto this line. It pops up in the call center and it tells the staff there that there's a call coming from a community partner and they can grab that call. We also have the same basic line for our clients in custody. So if they're in an institution around the province or being held at one of the courthouses, that kind of thing, they can call this number and it'll pop up on the call center screen as well for the staff and let them know that there's an in custody call coming in. We normally try to take those calls first because usually the clients that are in custody have a very limited amount of time on the phone. So we try to get to them first and as quickly as possible. Okay, so now the areas of law that we cover. So the first one is criminal. Now, in order for a client to be eligible for legal aid, they have to qualify both financially, and their legal issue has to be something we cover. So I'm going to go over the legal issues first. So for criminal, we provide standard contracts or our regular contracts where charges are serious and there's a likelihood of jail. We also provide criminal early resolution contracts, or CERCs as we call them. In order for a client to have a CERC, there doesn't have to be a likelihood of jail. And a client can be over our standard financial guidelines by up to $1,000. So, you know, when we get to the financial part, you'll see what our guidelines are for the individuals. But they can make up to $1,000 more. In the past, if these clients, there was no likelihood of jail, or if their income was above our standard guidelines, it would have been refused. So this is a service we've had out now for about 2 years. So basically, unless a client makes, you know, quite a bit of money, we can help almost every criminal client at some level or another. The criminal early resolution contracts, there are limits to it. Their job is basically to try to resolve the criminal issue before going to trial. So if they can negotiate with Crown, try to get the charges stayed, or you know, come up with a sentencing that works for them. If the client wants to plead guilty, they can help them with the guilty plea and the sentencing. But if there needs to be an actual trial, that is not covered under a CERC. So either the client would have to hire a lawyer privately if they're able to, or do the trial on their own, or the lawyers can ask for these CERCs to be converted to a standard contract if something has changed in the client's circumstance, like Crown is now asking for jail, or, you know, there's, you know, their income has changed, or, you know, sometimes when clients are interviewed, especially over the phone, it's not always easy to find out, you know, if a client, be able to see if a client has mental health issues or something like that. So we do have exceptions to our likelihood of jail. And if there is an exception, even if there is no, you know, there's Crown's not asking for jail, but a client has mental health issues or one of our other exceptions, we can still look at that as a standard contract. So CERCs are our backup when the client doesn't qualify for a standard, but we try to give a client a standard contract whenever we can. The exceptions, as I mentioned, one of them is if a client has a mental health disability or a physical disability, perhaps they're hearing impaired or visually impaired, that would make it difficult for them to act on their own. If being convicted would result in a loss of livelihood, you know, say if they have an impaired charge and they're a taxi driver, and if they lose their license, they lose their job, we can look at that. If they're in custody, we don't usually give them a CERC. Usually if they're in custody, it's a more serious case. So, and if they're a youth client, so if they're between the ages of 12 and 17, whether or not the charge has a likelihood of jail, they automatically get legal aid for almost everything. There's a couple provincial, you know, bylaw charges and stuff. Sometimes children get charged with, like trespassing, or we may not always cover those, but for the majority of the charges for youth clients, we do. And if a client is self-identifies as Indigenous and they've been charged with a hunting and a fishing offense, we can look at that as well as a standard contract. Oops, wrong way. And then the next area of law that we assist clients with is our family law. And again, we have a standard contract for family as well, which deals with mainly serious parenting issues, dealing with guardianship, parenting arrangements, or custody and access, protection orders, child support, and more, depending on the issues. And the issues need to be addressed immediately to ensure the safety of the children and or the client, as well as the parent-child bond. Just like criminal and all our areas of law, we do have exceptions to most of our standard guidelines. So there are exceptions to our family law as well, and we call these exception reviews. And anytime a client has something that doesn't fall within our standard guidelines, but an intake worker feels that they may have mental health issues. There may be something that falls within under exception review guidelines. They'll send it to the provincial supervisors, and we take a look at it and determine if it's something we'll override and allow them to approve. So excuse me, basically with family cases, our standard coverage, the way we look at it is if there's a safety or risk, physical or emotional, financial, there's different areas of risk that we look at for families related to the client and or the children. If there, abuse allegations, a lot of different things, emotional, physical, financial. So it's not just straight physical abuse. We do look at other things as well. And as I mentioned, if there's a risk to the parent-child bond, the other person is keeping the child from the client, trying to leave the province with the client or the child, that kind of thing. So those are things that we look at as a standard. Similar to the CERCs for the criminal, we have another type of contract that we want to give to clients where they don't fit within a standard contract. But if we can try to help them with some early resolution, we have what's called the limited representation contract. And similar to the CERCs, it's for family issues where there isn't serious legal issues. So if they have, they want to just change a custody order, for instance, or access time. Nothing urgent, there's no safety concerns, it's not working, they want to change it. Or they want to apply for or vary a child support or spousal support order, and that's their only legal issue. We don't cover that under a standard. I did mention earlier that we do sometimes look at child support and spousal support under a standard, but that is usually if we have other coverable issues, we can allow the support issues to kind of piggyback along with it. So if we have one coverable issue, we try to add the others if we can. But if the only issue is child support or spousal support, then we look at it as a limited representation contract. If a client has property issues that they need assistance with, we can look at it as a limited representation as well. Property division is never covered under a standard. So, if it was something that popped up as part of, and they had other coverable issues that we would cover under standard, it would not be something that would piggyback. It would be the only time we look at it is under a limited rep. So again, like our criminal, these ones would have been refused in the past because they're not serious or urgent, but we try to give as much as we can. It's not, it doesn't have as much, as basically with the CERCs, they have more services they can offer up to a trial. With a limited rep, it is fairly limited, much more limited than the CERC. The lawyers basically get 8 hours of prep time to assist clients with paperwork, and they get 3 hours of court time, and that's only to attend case conferences or uncontested hearings. So if it's contested, if there's anything like that, the lawyers can't attend. So in all, it's only 11 hours. It's not a lot. But again, like the CERCs, if something has changed in the circumstances, the client's legal issues have changed, maybe there's now a safety concern, the lawyers can ask for a conversion as well. So we do offer that service. So child protection and removal. So where the Ministry of Family and Development or one of their designated agencies has removed a child, or where there's a risk of removal, we can take a look at it. So the children don't actually have to be removed for us to approve and give them a lawyer. This could all, and if they also want to get access or custody of a child who's already in care, we can sometimes help with that as well, depending on the client's circumstances. But the main type of contracts we issue for child protection are where the children have been removed or where there's a risk. And again, as I mentioned with the PLCs, the Parents Legal Centers, if the client lives in a community where the PLCs either have an office and they attend court there, or their office covers that geographical location, the clients do have to go to the PLC first if they don't have a conflict. If the other party is already being represented by the PLC, then we'll provide a private lawyer for that client if they're financially eligible. But if a PLC doesn't have a conflict, then that client will go and work with them to try to resolve the issue. And as I mentioned, if it can't be resolved, then they'll also get a private lawyer if it has to go to trial. The financial criteria for child protection and PLC and any clients that go to the PLC is $1,000 higher than the rest of our financial coverage. So a client can make up to, just like kind of like the CERCs, they can make an extra $1,000 and still be qualified financially for child protection cases. And as I mentioned, most clients qualify for child protection unless a child has been in the ministry care for a while and is in permanent care. We usually cover in most things. If they are in permanent care and as I mentioned, the client wants to get access or get the child returned to them, that is something that goes to our family team for them to determine. It's not always approved, but we definitely take a look at it. And this is the only time also where we will provide a lawyer to a client where the child isn't born yet. So for a family case, we don't do that because the courts can't take jurisdiction over an unborn child. But with child protection, they don't necessarily have to go to court, and the lawyer can start negotiating with the ministry before the child's born. So we will provide a lawyer to the client if the child's not born yet. Oops, just getting a little bit carried away here. We also provide, on occasion, lawyers to what we call third-party applicants. So these are people that are grandparents, siblings, aunts, uncles to a child that want to become a party to the court proceeding. So normally only the parents are a party to the proceeding, but perhaps these people would like to become a party to the proceeding because they want the child to come and live with them, whether it's permanently or temporarily. And if that's the case, we can take an application. There's criteria that we have to look at. Our family team determines coverage, and if they say yes, we'll provide counsel. Then the lawyer goes to court and tries to get this person to become a party to the proceeding. If they're successful, then the lawyer can continue on. If they're not successful, then that's the end of the contract, basically. But again, the clients have to want the child to come and live with them. They can't just want access. And they have to be a close relative before we can consider that. I also, Alessia is going to be sending out a document that I have called Overview of Legal Aid Coverage Guidelines. And it's basically, it doesn't have anything to do with our financials, but it's all coverage guidelines and criteria that we look at through all our areas of law. And it explains the PLCs and everything further. So she'll be sending that out too. So that if you have any questions, there might be a lot of answers in there for you as well. We also have what's called a reciprocal program. It's pared down quite a bit. It used to be where if a client had a legal, for family or child protection, if they had a legal issue in another province, a client would apply here. We would determine if their issue was coverable in BC and if they were financially eligible in BC. And then we would forward the file to, say, Alberta, and Alberta would just look at the coverage because if they were financially eligible here, they didn't care as long as that was the case. And then they would look at the coverage, and if it fit within their coverage guidelines, they would provide a lawyer for them in Alberta, and vice versa. Same if they had to come here. But they decided about 2 or 3 years ago, to maybe a little bit longer, to just let the clients apply in their home province, or sorry, in their the province wherever their legal issue is directly, which is what we do with criminal cases. So if a client has a criminal matter in Saskatchewan, they have to apply with Saskatchewan legal aid. So we just decided that the reciprocal program decided that they would do the same thing. So if a client has a case in Alberta, they have to apply directly to Alberta Legal Aid, to Ontario Legal Aid, wherever their case is. The only exception to that is Quebec. Quebec doesn't really have an online service or a telephone service where a client can contact them and apply either online or over the phone. They just don't have a setup as far as I know, and it hasn't changed as far as I know. So if you do have a client that has court in Quebec, contact the local legal aid office, because we can do what's called a courtesy application. and we can take the information. We do still have a reciprocal coordinator, and he will forward that information directly to Quebec to see if they can provide counsel. And also, if your client doesn't have access to a phone or a computer, and it would be difficult for them to contact one of the other provinces or territories, then we can also look at doing a courtesy application for them as well. And if you need the, the best thing is to go directly to your local legal aid office. They'll be able to get you all the information that you need. And then we also have our immigration coverage. Our immigration coverage deals mainly with refugee issues, where a client wants to either claim refugee status or they face immigration proceedings that may result in their removal from Canada. So perhaps they've been charged criminally with something, and they could be deported because of that. There's a few different reasons that could happen. And that's one of the other things I forgot to mention when I was talking about criminal. If a client does have an immigration case and having a criminal matter could complicate it, if there's a likelihood of them being deported, there's certain times that we can cover it. Even if they're not asking for jail, we may still cover the criminal matter as well. Again, that will all be in that document that Alessia will be sending out. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we do have our call center immigration line, and here are the toll-free number and our local Vancouver number if a client needs to apply. All right.
Before we talk about eligibility requirements, I guess one thing that I found helpful, because we do have so many different services all around the province, and it could be helpful to check out our main Legal Aid BC website to see where the local agent offices are, where we have community partners, and where we have parent legal centers. I know there are some on the call who are from Campbell River, Prince George, or even Surrey. So each of those locations do have a parent legal center. So going to our website to see a little bit more about where we have those right now, maybe remote services, but eventually in-person services could be helpful. Deneen, next, can you talk about eligibility requirements for individuals to receive our advice services and representation services?
Great. And I just wanted to mention, as Sarah talked about, our website has all of our locations listed on there. Each of our local agents has an office email address as well, and it's listed there. So if you or your clients can't phone or you can't get through, you can actually send an email as well if you have questions or you want to check on something. So, and our Vancouver office has, the intake office has an email address as well. I don't know if it's listed on our website, but it's intake@legalaid.bc.ca. So intake@legalaid.bc.ca, and that's just for clients that applied either in our Vancouver office or our call center, but all the other ones have their email addresses. All the local agent assistants and local agent offices have their email addresses listed. Okay. So financial eligibility for representation. So this is for them to actually get a lawyer. We have, it's based on the client's net monthly income. And so we have our household size. We have our standard and limited representation contract guidelines. So it's $1,670 for a single person and progressively goes up as the household size goes up. And for child protection and the criminal early resolution contracts, which each allow an extra $1,000 for the financial eligibility, the numbers are on the right. When we look at monthly net income, there's certain things that we deduct. So we can deduct if a person's paying child support, if they're paying for daycare, certain medical expenses, basically, stuff that they really don't have control over. They have to pay these things. If they're trying to get access to their children and they have access access expenses, either paying for an access supervisor or travel costs to go see their child, and it's on a regular basis. If they have education expenses for a special needs child, if they've declared bankruptcy and they're paying bankruptcy fees, we have a list of them. So those are things that we can deduct off of a client's income. We don't deduct things like car payments and rent and things like that. It's the other things that are kind of, they really don't have a choice about the amount that they have to pay. And then we don't, of course, the net income is based on their after-tax amount from their pay or however they're supporting themselves. And then we deduct those deductions off of that. If a client is getting child tax, we do include it when we're entering the financial information, but the system doesn't calculate it as income. So that doesn't go towards the client. If they are receiving child support or spousal support, that is included as income. But we always recommend that you have clients come in and apply or contact and apply, even if you think they may not qualify financially, because there may be deductions that they don't know about. There's certain assets that we include, some we don't, some we can override. We do have an asset limit as well, and I'll go over that briefly in a minute. So it's important that, they be interviewed and be able to go over all of their issues with the intake worker. So we also have, as I mentioned, our asset list. So we have a personal property exemption list. So if a client has $2,000 in the bank, they're fine. If they have $2,500 or $3,000 in the bank, they may not qualify for legal aid because it's over our guidelines. We do look at, if the money is that high, it's not overly high, but if they're going to be paying rent in a week, and that obviously is going to come down $1,000, we look at that as well. It's not, we look at the kind of the whole picture, but if they have a substantial amount of money, we're not going to cover it. It also, this covers other kind of assets as well, but usually it's the cash that's the main issue. Vehicles and family homes are calculated different. If a client has a vehicle, they can have up to $15,000 equity in the vehicle. So it can be worth 20, and if they owe, 5, it's 15,000, they're fine. If they own a home, if it's a family case, we usually override it. If the house is going to be part of the family case, even if we don't deal with the property issues as part of the legal aid contract, if it's still going to be an issue through their specific family case, we sometimes can override it. Even if a client it's not a family case or the house is not related to the family case, they can still have up to $100,000 equity in the home. We just have to get documentation showing that. If they have more than $100,000 equity, then we would have to get something from the bank stating they couldn't get a loan or a line of credit or anything like that towards the property. And if that's the case, we can override it as well. Again, best to have the client apply so that we can go over all that with the client. And for our legal advice, as I mentioned at the very beginning, the income threshold is higher. So if they have a household size of 1 to 4, they can make $36.80 a month, and it goes up exponentially. And we don't look at assets for the legal advice. It's just based on income, and we don't require proof of income. We just want to know basically what the rough income is. Okay. And then, oops, sorry, my little button's going. And then occasionally, as we have the exception reviews for our family and different exceptions for criminal stuff, we have that ability to look at exceptions for financial as well. So if a client is over by $100 to $200 for a criminal, family, and immigration case, or an appeal case where they're wanting to appeal a court order, we can take a look at it. And if the case is serious enough, we may be able to override it and give them a lawyer. If they're only qualify for a family limited representation contract, they wouldn't be eligible for discretionary coverage because the case wouldn't be serious enough for us to consider it. Occasionally on criminal, we sometimes might go a little higher depending on the circumstances, but it's usually about $100 or $200. And if they're $500 over on assets, so if they're, if they have $2,500 in the bank and they're only allowed $2 for a single person, the intake worker can send it to it. They come to the provincial supervisors, and we can review it and see if, if the case is serious enough, we can override that $500. And there is no discretionary coverage for income on child protection cases because they're already allowed that extra $1,000. So we don't, if they're, $100 or $200 above that, they just don't qualify. But we do allow for the $500 asset discretionary review for them as well.
Deneen, so say an individual is refused legal aid, can you share what the person can do about it?
Sure. So when you need to request a review of a denial of legal aid, we don't call it an appeal in our organization because we already have our appeals department, so it gets a little bit confusing. We call it a review, and we call it a coverage and eligibility review, and those come to the provincial supervisors. So if a client feels that they want that review, they think they should get legal aid, they have to send the request in writing. They should basically state why they disagree with the denial and explain why they think they should get legal aid. And they should include any supporting documents. So, if something changed in their circumstances, they can still send it in. Normally what happens at that point is we'll send it back to the intake worker for them to reassess the client. But if there is something that, that perhaps there, was missed, and, we can look at it and see if we can override it and change the decision. So those requests come into us. They have to be submitted within 30 days of the denial. When a client is refused legal aid, they get a letter from the intake worker explaining why they were refused, and lists, there's a whole section at the bottom that explains if they want to review what they need to do. So it gives, as we have listed here, the provincial supervisor's address, fax number, email address, and all the information about how to ask for the review. So basically that's the end of my presentation, except that I would like to just mention that, when you're dealing with clients that need to apply for legal aid, hopefully this presentation helped you understand the intake process a little bit, help the client prepare for the interview. Basically what we want them to do is if they have any documents, whether it's financial or related to their charges, if it's criminal, court orders, court applications, if it's family, child protection, court documents, if they have those ready and with them, even if they don't, because we will ask for them later, but if they have them beside them, we can get a lot of information from them. And just to make sure that the clients follow up with their file and provide intake staff with all the requested information. We have a lot of clients, so the intake workers don't always have the ability to follow up with the clients themselves. So if the clients can follow up with intake, that's if they don't hear from them, that's really helpful. Not just wait for us to get in touch with them. And when you do, if you are assisting clients in person or over the phone, just remember that we need to get as much information as we can directly from the client. It helps us be able to tell what the client's ability is to deal with this issue. If they have mental health issues, we get a better sense of what they're capable of if we get the information directly from them. Clearly, if they need help, we don't mind you popping in and giving some assistance with answering questions. And then if you can kind of save some of the stuff to the end, that's helpful as well. And if you are with a client, either during an interview or over the phone, like in person over the phone, just remember that unless we have either written or verbal consent from the client to speak with you beyond the interview, we can't do that. So if you call in the next day to follow up on something for the client's file, and we don't have the consent on the file, we can't talk to you, even if you were during the interview. So it's important that we either get something in writing from the client, either a release form, an email, or they can give us verbal consent during the interview and we can attach that to the file. And that is the end of my presentation. Here's my information. If you have any questions or anything after we do the sessions, if you want to talk about a specific case, I can't go into, everything's confidential, so I can't go into a lot of detail, but if you want to go over a specific scenario, or if you have a client that has concerns, this is my information.
I think we're going to pass it over to Adam in a second, but yeah, about Ginger, are there any questions?
Yeah, there is one question. There were two questions. One was actually answered as you was presenting. So we have removed that question. The second one is the child tax benefit is not considered in family's income. Why do they need to declare it on the application?
Because what we want to do is we want to make sure that if a client, we're going over client's income and everything, and their expenses are really high and their income doesn't cover that, then usually if they have child tax, that's where the extra money comes from. So we want to get the information if we can. It's not always necessary. If the client has the number, if they want to give it to us, that's great. But if it looks like their monthly expenses are really high and their income doesn't cover it, then we want to see where that extra money is coming from. That's usually why we ask for it. It's not mandatory. It's just, sometimes it's helpful.
Thank you, Deneen.
You're welcome.
If you have any more questions for Deneen, I believe Deneen is still here. You can post them in Q&A. Sometimes questions do occur after a little while, so please feel free to post them in Q&A. And now I think Adam is going to present on the legal resources. Please join me to welcome Adam.
Hi, everyone. I'm Adam Fraser. I'm the Publications Development Coordinator here at Legal Aid BC, and I'm going to give you just a sort of whirlwind tour of what print and digital resources we have. There's a lot of them, so it's just the highlights, but everything's online, available for free. So if anything catches your eye, just you can go explore that on your own. And I'll show you where to find it all. So first, we're going to look at some of our publications, and then we'll look at what websites we have, and then we'll dig a little bit deeper and show you the guided pathways and online dispute resolution tools we have on those websites. As I go through this presentation, I want you to think about how you can help people with these resources, so you can help them to recognize the legal issue that they're facing. You can help them to find ways to stay out of court or resolve their problems early, and you can help them to find other options for help. So all of our publications are free. They're available online as PDFs, and they're also available through our website, which will take you to Crown Publishing, and you can order those. Individually with no account, or if you make an account with Crown Publishing, you can order up to, I believe, 50 at a time, or 25 at a time. So yeah, if you go to our website, legalaid.bc.ca, and click community workers, I believe, scroll down and click free publications. And there's a few different ways to find those publications. You can search by subject, language availability, by title. I actually find it a little bit easier to go down to the right there and read the availability and readability list. So the readability list, we have 3 different levels. We have level 1, which is no legal knowledge is needed. It's in clear, plain language for anybody who has English proficiency to read. Level 2 is publications for people who are comfortable reading and may have some legal knowledge. And level 3, those are higher level publications that are for people who are familiar with legal concepts. So I'm going to take you through some of our publications and just give you some examples. We have over 100, so I can't show you them all, but here's just a few. So under the realm of abuse and family violence, we have under level 1, we have a few graphic novels. So we have Leaving Abuse, which is the story of Maya, a young mother who has left her abusive partner but doesn't know what to do next or to get help. Leaving Abuse shows how Maya finds the support and legal aid she and her children need to stay safe and start a new life free from abuse. Clear Skies, another graphic novel, tells the story of Marnie and her kid who live with family violence. With the support of her community and by learning her legal options, Marnie is able to leave an abusive relationship. Clear Skies is also available as a 15-minute animated video on our YouTube channel. I'll show you where to find that later. And Live Safe and Abuse is for people leaving an abusive partner. It has fact sheets in a folder containing information on what abuse is, how people can plan for their safety and protect their children, and who can help. In level 2, we have Is That Legal, which was produced in collaboration with folks over at West Coast Leaf. It's a booklet intended to help young people become safer online when using social media. It describes situations including the sharing of intimate images and cyberstalking. We also have Safety in Relationships. These were produced with the folks over at Community. These booklets dispel common myths and abuse involving LGBTQ2SIA plus folks and provides practical tips for making a plan to stay or leave an abusive relationship. So in child protection, we have Emily's Choice. This was created alongside the Healthy Aboriginal Network. It's a story about, it's another graphic novel. It's about a woman whose child is taken away from her and how she gets legal help and support from family and her community to get her son back. Emily's Choice is also available as an animation on our YouTube channel. And then I'm going to go through these a little bit faster now. Parents' Rights, Kids' Rights is all basic information for parents about child protection processes. And then we also have Leaving Aboriginal Kids Safe. That's very low-level reading basic family rights. Then we have an info sheet for if your child is taken. We have at level 3, this is a flow chart for the child protection process and the Aboriginal child protection process. In criminal law, we have if you're charged with a crime, the short, easy to understand brochure that outlines what happens when someone is charged with a criminal offense. It also touches on the first steps of the court process and how to get legal aid or other legal help. For people facing serious and complex criminal charges who've been denied legal aid but can't afford a lawyer, we have If You Can't Get Legal Aid for Your Criminal Trial, which explains why, how, and when to ask the judge to appoint a free lawyer. Includes checklists of points to cover in court and copies of the necessary court forms. And we also have representing yourself in a criminal trial if you can't get a court-appointed lawyer. This is designed to, it's a guide for self-represented person going through the basic steps of the court process, both before and after trial. It also contains checklists and flowcharts and a sample letter to Crown Counsel, as well as how to get legal help. Under family law, we have tons of stuff, but we have the Family Law in BC Quick Reference Tool. This is really good. It's just a bunch of cards that are the absolute basics of family law in BC. One of our newer publications is Now You're Talking. It's a bunch of illustrated scenarios that direct you to our family law website, and that's explain of all the services that provides, and also directs to a lot of other resources. At level 2, separation agreements. It's a basic guide to your rights and what options you have. And then we also have another one, which is coping with separation during COVID-19. This is a COVID-19 update of coping with separation, which it deals with when you're getting legally separated, and gives a lot of mental health resources and that sort of stuff, but also gives you a good idea of what your rights are and what the steps are. I highly suggest that one. So under Indigenous and Reserve law, For level 1, we have who can stay in the family home on reserve. It's an easy to understand illustrated brochure that gives basic information about family homes on reserve and the Matrimonial Interests or Rights Act. It also explains in plain language your rights to your family home on reserve during a relationship, and what happens if you and your spouse separate, and what happens if your spouse passes away. We have an introduction to what First Nations court is, and income assistance on reserve in British Columbia, a guide to Aboriginal harvesting rights, and the Glad Use Emission Guide. We have a whole series of books on Glad-U reports. There's a submission guide, there's a guide for writers, and there's a highly technical guide for Glad-U writing that we recently just finished. And now I'm going to bring you into our 4 websites. So we have Legal Aid BC, that's our standard site. We spoke about that a little bit earlier. So that's where you can find information on where to find PLCs, their information, things like our pricing and that sort of stuff. But then we also have these other websites, the Aboriginal Legal Aid website, the Family Law website, and My Law BC. And these are more built for giving you tools and resources to deal with things yourself, to learn about the law, and find tools to help keep people out of court. So this is our legal aid website here. And so if you navigate through and click down below into community workers there, you can see a lot of resources for you. So all of these things that you're at right now, that sort of thing, they're recorded and you can access them by clicking down and going to training videos. And we have tons of information there and you can sort through all of that. And you can also go to our YouTube channel and find our animated graphic novels, informations. There you can see the Making Your Will. It's a guide to our guide. It's a guide to our guide for making a will. And now we have the Aboriginal website, which is aboriginal.legalaid.bc.ca. Here you can find stories that use lived experiences to educate people about what resources they have, videos, and as I said, the graphic novels. Here video I suggest is the Parents Legal Center, how Parents Legal Center helps Anna get her son back. And sorry about that. Right. So this is child and family rights. I don't know if that's the top of this appears for you or not, but yeah, child and family rights. This part of the website can help Indigenous people with family law, child protection, delegated Aboriginal agencies, and the extended family program, and more. And there's courts and criminal cases. This case, sorry. This can help with information about harvesting rights, applying to First Nations court, and Glad-U rights at sentencing, bail, parole, and more. Now, legal issues on reserve. Oh, sorry, that's legal issues on reserve. It's also, yeah, I lost that page in my notes. Yeah, this is a guide to legal issues on reserve, how wills and estates work on reserve, because we know that's different than everywhere else, and who's allowed to live in your home. So that publication I mentioned earlier, it's a more in-depth guide there. So our family law website, this is the largest resource for family law information in BC. Has information about divorce, parenting, support and finances, abuse and family violence, using the court system, and related legal issues. So throughout the website, we have these step-by-step guides for complex legal processes. So if you go through, it'll take you through every single step on the way, and it includes court documents that you can fill out yourself. And when you download them, they have how to fill them out built into it. And then when you print them out, all that how-to information goes away, but it'll bring you through all of it. One of our most used one is you can go through the whole divorce process on your own, and that way you don't have to spend a bunch of money on that. Yeah, that's the family law website. And now we've totally refreshed MyLawBC. So what MyLawBC is, it's a lot of things, but it's basically a set of tools for you to stay out of court or do things on your own. So it has information on separation and divorce, dealing with foreclosure, leaving abusive relationships, and you can use our tool to make a will. So throughout the site, there's guided pathways. What are guided pathways? Basically, the website asks you questions about your problem and then uses those answers to triage you and give you information tailored to your needs. The idea here is to give you what you need, when you need it, and not to overwhelm you with too much information. So it just takes you through step by step. And when you get through all those answers, it'll give you an action plan. So it gives you referrals to resources and services that can help you along the way. And it gives you downloadable PDFs so you can keep on referring back to it and take it with you. And yeah, it gives you short actionable steps to resolve your issue. And yeah, for example, if you do the wills pathway, it also gives you a tool that basically is sort of like a Mad Lib, and you can make your own legal will. So all of our guided pathways available are make a separation plan, get family orders, have been served with a court document, make a safety plan, find out if you can keep your home. That's the foreclosure one. Make a will, and planning for the future, which is associated with the making a will one. And finally, we have our online dispute resolution tools, or ODR services. So these are for issues around divorce and separation. You can create legal agreements here, and you also can get access to a mediator. And it's absolutely free, and it's open to pretty much anyone. It doesn't have the same financial guidelines that other services do. So what we have is called the Family Resolution Center. It's a platform for creating parenting plans. You can work together for what's best for you and your children. And yeah, 5 hours with a mediator for free, which is really great. The free mediation uses an online platform, which I'm going to give you a little tour of. And all of our mediators are qualified under the Family Law Act. So why the Family Resolution Center? Parenting issues are some of the hardest to resolve. People who can't afford these services, it can be really, really stressful for them. And working with a mediator helps you preserve your relationship and help you and your family, even if you're separated, live healthier lives. And yeah, to reduce the stress, you can do it on your own time. You don't need to get childcare to go meet a mediator, that sort of thing. You can schedule with your partner to use the platform, or your ex-partner to use the platform whenever works best for you. So the Family Resolution Center for now only deals with parenting issues, and it very soon will include child support disputes. There's no financial eligibility requirements, as I said before, and basically it's open to everyone, but there's some screening. So they don't cover cases of family violence, but the mediator will do screening for that, and they might send you to some appropriate resources. And the other screening is just the mediator will do a conflict check, and if they're not appropriate, we'll just appoint another mediator. So this is what the platform looks like. So you go through these steps and you fill out questions, and then you send over a proposal to your partner to review, and then they'll either accept it and you're basically done, or you can discuss it and bring in a mediator and send proposals back and forth to each other using our chat platform. These are all of the areas that it covers with these parenting plans. So, decision-making power, contact time, and then more specific things like, exceptions for vacation and who drives who where. These are all available there. And once you fill them all out, your mediator will help you to come to a decision. And while you're making the proposal, it gives common decisions here that you can choose from, or you can find your own. This is what the chat platform looks like. So you can chat with your mediator, but they can also come in and do a phone call or a Zoom call, whatever you're most comfortable with. And then once it's all done, you review your proposed plan and you get yourself a legal document. Yeah, that's everything there.
Thank you, Adam. If you have any questions, Adam is here. Please feel free to ask him.
Oh, the question was in the chat. It was, do you have this resources in other languages?
Yeah, so yeah, our publications come in many languages, but yeah, not our digital tools yet. But yeah, commonly Punjabi, traditional and simplified Chinese, French, Tagalog, many languages, Farsi. I think commonly they're up to 6 languages that they're translated into, but it depends on the publication.
Thank you, Adam. Any more questions, please? I think we don't have any more questions. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Deneen, for such a wonderful presentation and sharing this wealth of knowledge with us. I'm sure participants have a lot of information to consume. And if anyone have questions later on, you can send us an email and we can pass on this email to Adam and Deneen. And you can directly send an email to Deneen and Adam as well. Thank you so much. Please don't forget to fill out the survey as one of you will be winning a prize. Thank you and have a beautiful rest of the day. Thank you so much.